Hello everyone, welcome to Sleepy Classes and congratulations to all of you who have made it. Now, as you know, we are bound to start our interview guidance program, and this is the landing page for the interview guidance program. And what we will be doing in briefly in this area in the interview guidance program is we will be helping you with our experts to actually fill the DAF2, right? DAF2 is very, very important, right? And we'll talk about that. Uh, you will also be getting a detailed DAF analysis, personal mentorship with officers, with interviews with them, and so and so. More than that, we will also focus on group sessions for optionals, right? Especially Sekhar sir and Prerna ma'am would definitely go for this. Right, we'll have special sessions on sociology and on political science and so and so. We will be focusing on your current affairs. You will be getting a private Telegram group for the interview discussions, and I think it will be a very enriching journey for you, right? So this is majorly briefly about the interview guidance program. If you have any doubts, any queries, do reach up, right? And you can actually WhatsApp your DAF2 at 98141692272, right? Or just email us at Sleepy Classes, right? Okay. Now, in this session, what we'll be looking into is the basics of interviews, the interviews do's and don'ts, right? And first, what we do is just look at what the UPSC DAF2, right, looks like. We'll obviously do that later, but we'll look at the syllabus first, okay? So what it says the candidate will be interviewed by a board who would have before them a record of his career, right? The DAF. Now, the DAF includes the way you're from, your hometown, your education backgrounds. It has, your hobbies, your achievements, and so and so. So we'll have to figure out how we prepare of each of those sections. We'll have separate session for those, but let's go ahead. It says he or she will be asked on matters of general interest. The object of the interview is to assess personal suitability of the candidates for a career in public service. Now the question becomes is, so what kind of qualities does a civil servant, or what should we have? We've studied a bit about that in ethics, but we'll obviously look into that. Then who will be interviewing? There'll be a board of competent and unbiased observers. Now, what is this board? This board normally has 5 members, right? Now, these 5 members, obviously one is the member of UPSC, right? Normally, the chairman doesn't interview, right? The rest of them are, some are there from the academic side, and there are obviously some people from the army. Some members are themselves, from the army and the navy. Further, there will be professors, let's say from the ISI, from JNU, from IIT. So these members, they are, very, very rehearsed in taking interviews. They're pretty good in judging people. They're very, very competent. Okay, they're also unbiased. Okay, they don't have any vested interest in selecting or rejecting you. Okay, even if they've asked controversial questions, don't think they really bother about that. Okay, what basically looking at is testing the mental caliber of candidate. Okay, so in this I will quote one of our panelists, right, from last year, Suresh Gul sir, and he's a foreign service officer. He said that what I look in a student or a candidate, is his ability to think on the feet. What I'm looking at, okay, is he just replying because he has read something, or does he really deeply think about something and has absorbed it and is willing to think on the feet, on a certain problem or a certain issue. Okay, now obviously we look into intellectual qualities, okay, but we look at social traits as well. Okay, and you talk about general interest in current affairs, though there'll be interviews in which no current affairs will be asked, and there'll be interviews in which there'll be some current affairs asked and so. Okay, now what are the qualities? How the interview is basically conducted, like some basic idea. Okay, so mental alertness. This is one thing that basically look into. How this will be done, we'll talk about later in this video. Critical powers of assimilation. Clear logical exposition of thoughts, right? What are you saying? Are you well rehearsed about it or not? Balance of judgment. This perhaps is very, very important, right? A lot of us have extreme views on things. We don't see the other side. Okay, a civil servant is supposed to have this quality beyond, I think, any other quality, right? And obviously, this is developed across time in civil services as well. Variety and depth of interest. They look into your depth of interest and your optional and your hobbies and so on. So, ability for social cohesion and leadership. Are you a person of high EQ? Right. Intellectual and moral integrity. So they totally dislike somebody guessing, but obviously we'll discuss all these 7 qualities a lot more detail later in the video. Okay. Now, how is the interview conducted? Okay. Now it says the technique of the interview is not of strict cross-examination, but direct, purposeful conversation. Now, what does this mean? It means it's not a strict cross-examination. It's a very cordial interview. Now, the problem is, I would actually say it would have been better if it's a strict cross-examination. Okay, because it's cordial, what will happen with a lot of students is that they, obviously very nervous while going in the interview room, and you might tend to say things you really don't mean. You'll have slippages of tongues. I myself had a few, right? So you have to be very careful with the words you choose there. But a natural, right, purposeful conversation, which is intended to reveal the mental qualities of the candidate. I might say that this might not happen because the interview is very short, but yes, they will be able to gauge you for what your performance then and there. It is not the test of specialized or general knowledge of the candidate, right? They say that mains has already tested it, so it is not supposed to be that. But yes, they will still test you, right, in depth. Okay, so somehow UPSC always does that. It says one thing and does another. Candidates are expected to have taken an intelligent interest not only in their academic study but events which are happening. So what we're talking about is basically current affairs, right? So modern current affairs or thoughts, new discoveries which should arouse the the well-educated youth. Now, what it basically means is that anything latest. So a lot of our students, like last year, one of our rankers, Porush, he basically had this a lot of AI in his projects and all in college. So he took them to AI, and obviously artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, Bard, Gemini, all of them are so much in use. So there was a huge discussion on artificial intelligence there and then. So that can happen. Now, a lot of times we feel, okay, what especially the people who are taking the interview the first time. So there are a lot of interview myths. What are those? Uh, Interview questions are like WhatsApp forwards. That's the first question, right? Like there's a can they ask a puzzle in the interview, right? A lot of us have taken placements exam. We normally get a puzzle there, right? So how do how to throw an egg from a building without breaking it? So it's a very famous puzzle, right? And very rarely, right? Alka Sirohi, long years ago, right, did ask a puzzle from a student of ours, right? This is in 2014-15, but long back. Okay, but this happens very rarely, and it depends. Somebody might have written that he has won a puzzle contest or something like that in college, so maybe then. But otherwise, nothing like that happens. Interview is not a system of rejection and acceptance. A lot of people might think that way, but it is not anymore. Right? In the 1960s and 1950s, it was a system of rejection and acceptance. Uh, you might say, so, without high marks in interview, I might not be able to make it in a top. That's true, right? But uh, to be honest, it is just some marks being added, right? Obviously, those marks are very high and percentage-wise are higher, so it might determine your rank. But it is a part of the whole process, and it is just added to your overall marks. You might have a high written score, right, and a low interview marks. Now that can actually, mar your chances of getting through. So this is the time that you really need to be very positive about the interview, right? And we'll, obviously, what I used to normally do is I always used to say that during the interview process, do not, right, say anything negative to anyone. Or on the other hand, I would used to say that always just try to praise others during the interview period. Okay. Now, interview is not a test of knowledge. Despite it not being a test of knowledge, uh, somehow it comes when you're talking, that will come out. So obviously, it doesn't matter. Let's say if you've been asked a lot of questions in the interview room, right, and you're not able to answer. So please just say I don't know, right? Right. Instead of bluffing, do not guess whatever might happen in the interview room. It makes no sense to guess actually, because if you, let's say, you do not know an answer, you can move to the next one. Then some interview boards are dreaded, right? And with the myth, they give low marks. Okay, but to be honest, I think a lot of data analysis also happened across the years, and you have some boards which will give higher marks and low marks. But to be honest, what will happen is that they should like you. Okay, if they like you, you are just one person, so the average case doesn't really hold to you. Okay, so remember, you can always get high marks from a board which doesn't really give you high marks. Like during our time, we used to have Purushottam Agarwal board, right? And he used to be, as we said, he used to expect a Purushottam, right? And getting 190 was a big deal there. Okay. On the other hand, you could get 210 with some other board. Okay, so those things happen, but right, that is our thing. Okay, so there are examples of Ajit Bhosle sir also, right? We talked about that, and Basi sir, right, is very strict, right? That used to happen, but these are like people, and I think you will hear all this about the various boards, right? Especially people who have the interviews later, like maybe say in April, that will happen. Uh, then there's a myth like, okay, interview is it's like a roadie audition. It's not. Okay, right? All the members are very cordial. Nobody is there to insult you. If there is a strict cross examination happening or something like that is happening, they just want to check you under pressure. Okay, if they're not being cordial to you, get that they just feel that maybe you're a little immature, and they want to see how do you react under pressure, or you react to criticism. Okay. Okay. Now, straightforward thing. How do I prepare? So, what's a pre-interview preparation like? Now, Uh, a formal suit is expected, but it's okay if you wear a shirt and a pant. Okay, depends on the weather. I would say whatever you're comfortable with. Uh, Oxford shoes. You should have an handkerchief. Make sure everything is pressed. Okay, right. Don't be nervous. Right. Try to be very comfortable. Do not wear anything tight clothes. Try to make sure that the shirt is perfectly fitting you. Right. If you're wearing a suit, make sure it fits. Do not try to wear tight clothes that day. You might have to wait for a long time and might not suit you. To be honest, the female candidates are the ones who are in more trouble here, right? Because they normally should wear traditional wear, a sari or a suit, right? Don't wear too much jewelry, right? Or little or no. Do not color your hair. Wear something glamorous, right? It's not a wedding. Okay, the interview should go. They are basically checking your character, right? And not your clothes or jewelry. So yeah, maybe some people feel more confident wearing cool clothes or wearing nice clothes, but try to be what normally I prefer is like a sari from, let's say, Fab India or something here, right? I like the cream sari with a red border, right? That is a standard bureaucrats, I would say, clothes. Okay, anyhow, but I think a lot of you would have your own, but you make it a very nice one, right? You should look presentable and very very like uh, a lot of people ask them वो देखते क्या interview में. So I say that they imagine uh, maybe themselves or their batchmates in you, and whether you feel like them or there's a natural aura that you carry. So when I look at you, do I see somebody who long years ago actually cleared? Okay, so I'll give example of that. So one of our students, Ronak, he was ranked 13 a few years ago. So Ronak, when I saw him, he just looked like one of my friends, Kashish, right, who's a ranker from 2010, 11, right? So I could actually just look at him and imagine somebody else who's similar to him and who's in the bureaucracy and is doing well. So somebody like that. Okay, so now the question comes is, it's a very nervous thing, right? What do you do with the before the interview, right? UPSC interviews. So night before the interview, I believe this is the toughest, right? And mark the slide. I think one day before the interview session, you have butterflies in your stomach. There's so much going around. You can hardly sleep, right? It's pretty much a lot of people are very nervous on the day of the interview. For the girls, it's even harder because you have to get ready. It'll take time. And once you reach UPSC office, what will happen is you will stand in line for verification. You'll show your summon letters there. After verification, you'll sit in a room, right, for document verification, right? 6 tables are there with 6 candidates each, and you're supposed to go to a different board depending on the table you're sitting. All document checking are moved to a central hall, and now you've been told that okay, uh, you know this is the board that we've been assigned. Sometimes this happens at the same place. You've just been asked to sit at a table, and that is corresponding to a certain board, and there only the person will be checking your documents. Candidates are called one-on-one. Now it changes. What happens is that, okay, let's say if you're the first person in the interview room, the expectation is very different. Okay, if you have an early interview, the expectation is different from you. If you have a late interview, the expectation is very different from you. Okay, then if you're the first candidate, the interview can go longer. Okay, or and if you're like a candidate who has done it a little, what do you say, earlier or later than the candidates who came. Let's say your interview starts at 10, vis-a-vis your interview is like 12:30. So different yardsticks are there, right? They might be a lot more quicker than you. So your expression, your preparation has to be higher then. Okay, do remember, right? Let's say the interview starts. The interview starts the moment you enter the interview room. Okay, so how can it? Let's discuss some situations. So situation one, you're waiting outside and are called inside. And while walking in, the chairman looks at you and you wish him, and there's some eye contact, right? You walk in and there's some eye contact. You say good morning, sir, good morning, ma'am, and be very natural while you're addressing them. Situation is perfect. You thank the chairman for giving the chair and wish the other members of the board as soon as you have eye contact with them. So situation two, you're waiting outside, called inside, you walk in, no one looks at you, they're busy, looking at their phones, right, or looking at the DAF. One of my friends, he had, there's a match between India and Pakistan, and he had the interview at the same day, right, and everybody was looking on, right, on their phones at that day, right, at that time, cricket info, no Hotstar. Okay, so in this situation, you have to start wishing everyone with a firm but loud enough voice to attract some attention, right? So this again, you have to be very careful. It cannot be too loud. Even if they do not look at you and start to the next chair, wait for them to respond for you. Stand next to the chair nicely, right? So let's say this is the chair. Imagine the chair here. Stand and wish everyone. So good morning, sir. Good morning, ma'am. Good morning, sir. Right? Wish everyone, right? Be very pleasant and natural. And that is very important, I would say. Okay. Keep a light smile. I think that would also help. Don't ask for the chair. Be comfortable even if they want to interview standing, right? I think it's better if that happens, then you'll get high marks. Okay, during the interview, once you've been given the chair, thank the chairman and other members for being given the chair. Now the interview will start with an introduction or something from a DAF. Chairman normally is very, very cordial, right? So basically, the chairman says, Mr. X, Miss Y, please sit down, feel comfortable, take a deep breath. And let's say he compliments you, like, I see a young girl, right, who is a very good academic background. Are you nervous? Now, if you get this type of a start welcome, you feel confident, but it's a two-edged sword. Okay, they expect a lot and they want to deliver. Now, I remember last year, one of our students, Madhav, right? So he, we were discussing, right? And I explained it to him that because he was from a very good college and he started at great places, what will happen is they'll expect a lot, and you'll have to over deliver. Okay, so this is something there. Normally what will happen is that the chairman normally goes straight for the hobbies, right? Let's say you are into meditation and you're into mandala, therapy and whatnot. So he'll straightway start, okay, so what does SQ stand for? Now, you might not understand, right? So SQ stands for spiritual quotient. Let's say he clarifies and the conversation starts, how this is important in these times. Now, obviously, you're right, the hobbies is something that a lot of us are faking, right? I normally see that happening, even in mock interviews. A lot of made up hobbies are there. I normally say don't do that. Just go back, let's say before class 10th, and what you used to do. Let's say it's just playing cricket with your friends outside, right? Say that. Okay, you can always prepare that. Okay, but it should sound very truthful, right? I normally say like, okay, let's say you have some prizes, let's say in quizzing and some dancing or something, try to talk about that, right? So I say that the prizes you have got should have a positive correlation with your hobby. And like, let's say you have a person, who wins quiz contests. So you can say, so my hobby is reading about current affairs, or, I like to, play chess or something like that. Okay, what are the qualities? We talked about these before, but okay, how this happened in my interview and others. Okay, so mental alertness. Now, how this is checked. Now, one method is, let's say you're from Kerala or some place which is distant. So they normally start with asking about your journey. Okay, what did you see outside while coming by train? What were the various uh, you know s- stops of the train if you came coming by train and so and so. They will basically ask questions on that. Okay, but sometimes what happens is that they can even ask, okay, name the northeastern states. Let's say you named all of them, right? So you start with Sikkim, you said Assam, Arunachal, right, Mizoram, Nagaland, Tripura, and so on, so right. And now let's say if there's a map present in the room, okay, so you can easily just point to that. Okay, be alert. Let's say there's a Mughal painting or there's a Jahangir painting or some other painting lying in the room, okay, and they ask a question on that. So if you point to that, that shows you're mentally alert. Okay, other methods as well. All right, there are some funny questions like number of steps or how you walked while coming inside and so on. So critical powers of assimilation. This is normally done by giving information in the interview room on a topic. Let's say there's a discussion happening and they basically asked, and said something about, let's say, the Israel-Palestine issue, right? And now, let's say a similar question was asked regarding Kashmir. Okay, so does your chance, do you use that information in your answer? So that is how this is done. Okay. Now, this happened in my interview. They asked me a question on decision making. I had public administration as a topic, as a subject. So they asked about decision making, and my, obviously, uh, the linkage was to because I used to play chess. So, right, playing chess. Okay, let's go back on here. The most important, perhaps, and something which is totally in our control, is this: the quality which we can actually say that, okay, so yahan to main, aap prepare kariye, as I say. So clear logical expression thoughts. Here, this is checked in every answer. Try to frame answers. Okay, written में आंसर बनाओ. Please, written में आंसर बनाओ. एक क्वेश्चन सोचो, ये क्वेश्चन में से पूछ सकते हैं वो possibly, and then frame answer. ठीक है ना? Right? And इसके लिए obviously we say that okay, practice mock questions though. So normally I say जितने भी mock देते हैं आप, ठीक है ना? They are supposed to be use a question bank, and you should have written answers to those questions for the final day. Okay, a lot of times I was asked questions on leadership, transactional and transformational leadership in my mocks, and the same question came in the interview. So very important. During our time, we used to write written answers to expected questions and mirror exercises. So this is one thing which you also do: that stand in front of a mirror and answer the question. See how your body language is looking. Just look at yourself while you're just wishing good morning to everyone. Right, that's important. And videos, make a lot of videos, right, of this. Once you figure out, okay, these are the questions. We would be obviously giving you a lot of questions, right? Like possible questions which can be asked from a certain subject, right? Let's say you're from a certain engineering or from material science and so on, and you make an answer and frame it. Okay, and get a video done for yourself and see how are you answering in the way you think. Okay, this is a good answer. Then balance of judgment. Let's say this is normally given giving controversial questions. So normally they don't ask controversial questions, but let's say they do. Always always give a balanced viewpoint. Okay, or a positive viewpoint. So balance but positive and futuristic. Reason why they're expecting positivity from you? See, at a young age, you should be very positive, right? You should be full of energy and full of enthusiasm that we'll do something good. Okay, so in this I was asked a question on corruption in India, and I was asked a viewpoint that whether obviously this will end or not. Okay, so balanced but positive. You talk about what are the challenges, but say that yes, the new generation, the youth of India, and which includes me as a person, right, would want corruption-free India. Okay, now variety and depth of interest. This is checked using your academics and your hobbies. So we normally prefer that, okay, let's make a depth of 50 questions. Okay, so 50 probable questions which can be asked from my academics. Let's say I'm computer science, right? And 50 academic questions can be asked from hobbies. Okay, right? So I will prepare. So I'm assuming, let's say if I'm a computer science engineer, I'm interviewing for Google. That is the level of depth of interest they basically look for. Ability for social cohesion, this is the full toss question, I say. This is the free hit. You are given abstract questions. We'll have a separate session for this. How do you handle abstract questions? They will make you the PM, the DM, CM, etc. Right? Let's say for one day. And they say, how would you tackle a situation or what would you do? This is the most scoring. Okay. If this is given to you, they like you. Okay. I clearly say that. If they have given you this question, they just want to, put that 180 there, that, okay, at least if you answer this question well, this is important, right? You pretty much score high. Yes, this is where your marks will go down. So if this is the place where your marks go high, right, here it will go down. If you guess in any scenario, if you lie in any scenario, yeah, you hit 120 and 110. Okay. So if you scored less than, let's say 130, right, I say that this is what has gone wrong in the interview. Okay. Right. If you're being defensive with the interview, if you're being evasive in the interview, don't expect more than 150. Okay. Now, all the qualities we have listed, if you are able to even prove one of them, you'll get 180 to 200, which is more than enough, I would say. Do not get discouraged if you are not able to answer a question, right? I always say this, right? Just say, I don't know, move ahead, okay? Even if you're not able to answer 10 questions. I have had students who have not answered maybe a single question and still scored 180 plus. Okay. Do not give excuses. Now, what happens is, let's say, there's a question they ask and you think you should know the answer. Do not, assume that you should answer that question. Do not use filler words like I feel, I basically, obviously, so and so. Reason is that, one of the qualities they're checking is logical exposition of thoughts. So, I believe that you should frame answers before you answer them. So, always think, okay, what you would do, what would the other person want, and then answer that. Do not overlap. Let's say a member cuts you. Let's say you're answering something. Let's say this is a question which happened to me. They asked, okay, what are organic chemistry and pharmaceutical industries? How are they correlated? And I started giving examples of that. Okay, what are the various pharmaceutical products which are obviously derived from the studies of organic chemists across the world. I was cut very quickly there. So what does it mean if they have cut me? It means they're satisfied. Okay, do not overlap. The answer is ended. Okay, as soon as the other board member cuts you. Now, one other question which is always asked is hand and eye movement, right? But what should be my hand movement? Some of us have a different type of hand movements and eye movements. So why I say that? Okay, so take your hands like this, clasp them, and properly just sit like this. Okay. A lot of people obviously just keep it like this in the right when they're sitting, right? But I just normally say that it's better to just clasp, right, like, and just sit like normally. Be relaxed. Okay, so it's nothing. The questions are very cordial. They'll make you feel very relaxed in the interview room. To be honest, you might be nervous. They are not. You're just one of the candidates in the day for them. Be positive. Be happy. You've reached the interview stage, and it's a wonderful experience. Okay. Now, there's a hand movement. Obviously, I said, obviously you can obviously keep the hands on your thighs. You're obviously don't try to use your hands too much while speaking. Some of us will have that, because especially if you've taught somewhere or you're a teacher, that might happen. Head movement, okay, should be natural. Some nodding is fine, but do not. Obviously, all these things, the more mocks you take, you will be able to figure them out. Okay, and not that difficult to handle, I would say, after a few mocks. Eye contact, the most trickiest, I would say. This is the most trickiest area, right? The eye contact. Keeping eye contact with the whole board is tough. Okay. Try to obviously maintain eye contact with a person whom you're answering to, but try to have a natural eye contact with everyone. This is difficult. This has to be practiced, and a lot of mocks would be useful. A lot of analysis after mocks are also useful there. Okay. Now, the interview is ending now. What will happen? This will be abrupt, okay, especially for most of the candidates. Suddenly they'll say, okay, thank you. Okay, the interview is over. Okay, thank them individually if you possibly can in a natural way. Well, right, and don't say welcome if they say thank you. Be alert. Okay, practice it a few times. Let's say so they say, okay, Varun, your interview is over. So response is very simply, okay, right. So it was a pleasure meeting you, sir, and all of you, sir. Thank you so much. All right. So thank them again. Right. Do not turn your back on them too quickly. Right. Do not be in a hurry to move out. Be natural. As I'm saying, right. You are nervous. Let's say your interview is over and you're like, okay, हो खत्म हुई, ठीक है ना? इंटरव्यू खत्म नहीं हुई है जब तक बाहर नहीं निकले, right? So आराम से उठो, thank them individually, move back, and head back. Okay, right? A lot of times it has happened that we have called somebody back, okay, right, while they were going out. So don't interview doesn't get over till the time you're out. Also, it starts the moment you're inside. Okay, right? Okay, with that, the session is done, and this was just about interviews do's and don'ts. We'll have other sessions on abstract questions on DAF 2 and others, and obviously you'll get. So please do register on our WhatsApp number and on our website as well. Right, if you type Sleepy Classes interview program on Google, you'll get a nice landing page on which you can fill a form. Right.